Hey, what's going on, sports rehab experts? Today we're going to be talking about the number one mistake that most people make when they are dealing with an Achilles issue. And this is probably the most common treatment that you'll see people recommend, whether you go online, you look around YouTube, whether you go to the doctor's office, whether you go to see a physical therapist. Unfortunately, this is the most common recommended advice that you will receive to treat an Achilles issue. And that is to just stretch it. But unfortunately, it's not quite that easy. It's not quite that simple. And a lot of times, the amount of benefit that you'll get from stretching is far less than what it feels momentarily. And actually, a lot of times, the amount of relief that you get is just very momentarily with the stretch. But long term, you're probably actually doing a little bit more harm than good. Now, to understand this a little bit more, we need to kind of really take a deeper dive into the anatomy. And when we look at the anatomy, we don't want to just look at the muscles. We also want to consider bone and joint position as well too. And if you look at the shape of the heel creates this fulcrum for the Achilles tendon to kind of wrap around and all of a sudden kind of turn back into the plantar fascia. I'll put a picture up in the video here so you can take a better look at it. But what you need to understand is that when your shin moves forward into a common position that someone would stretch their ankle, their Achilles, and calf into, that will create a lot of tension, a lot of compression to the Achilles tendon as it wraps around the heel of the bone. So the more that your pain is at the base of the heel, the more that you feel Achilles pain towards the bottom of the heel or towards the foot, the less benefit and actually the more harm you're probably doing by stretching the Achilles tendon. Now, if you're getting some Achilles tendon pain and it's in the middle of the Achilles or in the mid portion of that Achilles tendon, probably not actually doing any harm at that point in time, so it may be okay to stretch it because it probably feels a little bit good in that period of time. You're probably not going to do any harm, but the amount of benefit that you're going to get from stretching is going to be very, very short-lived and only momentarily when you perform that stretch. It's not going to create any type of longer lasting relief to that tendon, because ultimately you have to understand of what an Achilles tendon injury is, and that's a reduction in the capacity of that tissue to be able to accept load. So if that tendon, if that tissue's piece of resiliency is decreased, the only way that we can start to increase it is to apply load, to apply a stressor, to enforce adaptation upon the tissue, much like you would do in a strength and conditioning program to try to build a larger bicep or a bigger squat. You need to do the same for your calf musculature. Now, there's better ways of doing this than others, and we'll get into that into future videos. But for now, just understand the standpoint of if you're dealing with an Achilles tendon issue, you need to figure out how to load the Achilles tendon in some way, shape, or form, because that's going to lead to a lot better results than just stretching, which likely has led to temporary results, or maybe you get relief of symptoms, but then when you try to go back into running or something a little bit more dynamic, the symptoms always tend to return. And that's because the capacity of that tissue has never been reestablished or built back up into that tendon to be able to withstand the forces necessary to be able to run, jump, or play basketball or go for a jog for 5 miles. So what would be a better approach to start doing, and again, we'll get into this into future videos, this is just part one. What would be a better thing to start doing is, number one, first and foremost, recognize where your Achilles tendon pain is. If that Achilles tendon pain is right at the base of the heel, you do not want to be stretching. If it's in the mid portion of that tendon, likely stretching is okay, but it's probably not going to do you anything good long term. We need to get to loading the tendon. So then that asks question number two: why did this happen in the first place? Do I remember a specific moment in time where this injury occurred? Was there a specific peak or spike in the amount of activity was I doing? Was I being fairly sedentary or inactive and then decided to go play basketball or go for a 5-mile run? Or was I fairly active all along and there really was no spike in activity levels, but this pain just kind of randomly started to pop up? Then how does the tendon respond under stress or under load? So there's only 3 things that can happen when you perform an activity. And if you're in pain, the pain can either worsen, the pain can stay the same, or the pain can be better. Those are your only 3 options. So whatever exercise activity that you do, Those are your three answers. Those are the three things that could happen when you perform that activity. So say you perform an activity and that tendon became more unhappy at you. That likely isn't an activity that you want to be doing at this current moment in time. Now there are some gray areas to that, to where, okay, maybe the increase in pain was a very mild increase in pain, and then when you stop that activity, the pain returned right back down to its baseline level. That would be probably more of like a yellow light. Just kind of be cautious with it. You probably can still get away with it, but none of that pain should stay increased. There should be no real spikes or sharp increases in your pain, and that pain should not linger on for an extended period of time after performing that activity. If any of that occurs, then that would be a red light. That would mean you're not ready for that activity at this moment in time. You're not ready for that amount of load or that amount of stress to happen at the tissue level at this particular moment in time. So that would be a frowny face. We're going to have to avoid that activity for this moment in time. Now, if there's no change in your pain, the pain stays the same, or again, there's just a mild increase of pain, and then as soon as you stop whatever activity it was that you decided to do, and it goes right back down to your baseline levels of pain, then that is a no change. So in that instance, then we would say that that activity would be okay to continue doing. You're likely not doing any harm, and it's going to be helpful for you in the long run because you're still applying load and still applying an adaptive stressor to the body that the body is going to respond favorably towards. Now, the final scenario, which would be the ideal scenario, is that you get a smiley face. Things feel a little bit better as you do the activity. And that's the activities that we want to find more of. We want to do more and more of those activities, and then have you do them on a daily basis, so that frequency and that exposure to a very happy experience for that tendon, a very useful amount of load or stress was applied to that tendon. It resulted in a very favorable outcome. So if we continue to do more and more of that, it'll lead to more and more favorable outcomes, and it'll lead to higher and higher levels of capacity of that tendon, and we can get on to bigger and better things and create a snowball effect where we start to have a little bit broader of a menu, where we have more activities that are favorable for us to continue doing. So that's it for part one. Part two, we're going to start getting back into more actionable takeaways, more actionable activities or exercises that you can get into. So stay tuned for video number two. In video number one, again, the main things that you want to consider here is where's the location of that pain. Do not stretch that Achilles tendon out, especially if it's down toward the base of the heel. And then third, what type of response do you have to some type of loaded activity? Or some type of strengthening activity? Is that a frowny face? Is that an indifferent face where there's no change? Or is that a favorable face, a smiley face, and something that you would want to continue to do more of? All right, so that's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one, and we'll talk to you then. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you got a lot out of the information in today's video. If you like this type of content, if you could do us a huge favor by liking the channel, subscribing to the channel, and hit that alert button so you get notified when any new videos come out your way. Also, if you're a rehab clinician looking to take your clinical skill knowledge to the next level and seeing how you can better help your patients, visit sportsrehabexpert.com, where we got a lot more information that can help you along the way, as well as our Certified Sports Rehab Expert course. This is 2 courses that give you a sports rehab residency or an orthopedic fellowship type education in half the time at a fraction of the cost. So visit sportsrehabexpert.com to check out these 2 courses. We have the Human Assessment Mastery course and the Full Body Treatment Domination course. And finally, maybe you aren't a rehab clinician watching this video. Maybe you're someone just looking to keep an active, healthy, mobile, athletic lifestyle without painkillers and frequent visits to the doctor's office. If you're located in Ann Arbor, Michigan, you're in luck. Just visit annarbor.physio and you can set up your appointment today. If you're not from around the Ann Arbor or the Michigan area, no worries. We do a lot of online video consultation services from people all over the globe as well too. So you can reach us at annarbor.physio or at sportsrehabexpert.com, and we'd love to learn more about how we can help you out.